In this video, we're going to be looking at the best woodworking projects to sell locally. Let's get started. Project number 1 is the best seller for me on Facebook Marketplace. Starting out, we're going to cut 4 2x2s to 15 inches long. Next, you're going to cut 4 to 31 inches. And finally, cut 4 pieces to 18 inches. So for this next part of the project, you're going to need a drill and a pocket hole jig and a clamp. So what you're going to do is you're going to drill 2 pocket holes on each end of the 18 and 15 inch long boards. So let's get started. Oh yeah, and also do it on the worst looking side. So have the good looking side facing down. Alright, I just realized something that I did wrong. Yep, I put the pocket holes in the 18 inch boards instead of putting them in the 31 inch long boards. So I guess let's put in some more pocket holes. Yay! Alright, now time for assembly. I'm going to be using these 1 1/4 inch pocket hole screws, and they are indoor, and I shouldn't be using them, but I don't have any exterior, so this is what I'm going to be using. So starting out, you're going to start out with 2 of the 18 inch long boards, and they should not have pocket holes in it. And then you're going to start out with 1 of the 31 inch long boards. I'm just going to put these together just like this. Alright, so the next step that you're going to do is you're going to measure down from the top where you just put the board in. You're going to measure down 12 inches on each side, and then take another one of your 31 inch long boards and put it in right on the line. Alright, now you're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing with the other boards. Alright, so the next step is you're going to put the 15 inch long boards, and you're going to put them here and here on all 4 corners. Alright, so you're going to go ahead and take this frame, and then you're going to go ahead and set this on top of it, and then attach it all together. For this next part of the project, I have 2.5 inch wide cedar strips, and I'm going to use these for the sides, and I've calculated I need about 35 of them, so I'm going to go ahead and cut 35. They need to be 12 inches long. Now, if you can't already tell what I've been building, this is a raised planter box, and these sell really good for me on Facebook Marketplace. So the final step to finishing these is to put all of these picket things all the way across, and you can use fence pickets to go across right here, and you can scale this up or down as much as you want. The last final cuts are going to be from here to here, and you're just going to cut enough to go all the way across the bottom. And with that, project number 1 is done. On to project number 2. So for this next project, all you're going to need is a couple of bolts that are like 3.5 inches long, and then you're going to need a 2x4. I have a 2x8, but a 2x4 will be just fine. And what you're going to do is set your saw to 1/2 inch, and then you're going to cut 6 strips out of an 8-foot 2x4. So for the next step, you're just going to take 5 of the strips you just cut, and you're going to cut them down to 7 feet long. Quick tip whenever you're trying to line up all the ends of your boards, just take a clamp and clamp the ends so that they'll all stay the same length. I gotta show you this. This is crazy. Look at how much this bends. That's crazy. Now go ahead and set aside the 7-foot long boards and keep 2 of your 12-inch long cutoffs. Now you're gonna go ahead and grab the long board you set aside and cut it to 34 inches long. Now for the next step, you're gonna need a 3/8 inch drill bit or whatever size bolts you have. Then we're gonna go ahead and square up the end. Then once you got it where you want it, go ahead and clamp it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and measure up 1 1/4 inches and 2 1/4 inches up. By the way, the design for this is from Matthew Peach. I'm gonna go ahead and put this bolt in because this is not wanting to cooperate very good. Alright, so the next step is we're going to go ahead and measure up from the end where we put the bolts in. We're going to measure up 29 inches and then mark it. And then from the first mark, we're going to go ahead and lay this on top of it and mark where it goes. So mark all the way across. And then from this mark, we're going to mark up 16 inches. Do the same thing. Mark up 16 inches. There we go. So the next step is we're going to take the 34-inch long board and we're going to find the center. And if my calculations are right, it should be 17. My calculations are right. So the next step is we're going to lay this on top where our top mark is, and then we're going to pre-drill right into the middle piece. Now we're going to go ahead and attach it with our 1-inch screws. And then we're going to attach this 12-inch board in the center here, 6 inches, pre-drill, 1-inch screw. And repeat that same step for the bottom one. Alright, so the next step is we're going to mark in 2 inches from each end of this long crossboard. We're going to mark the middle in between this screw and this mark we just made, and that would be 7.5 inches on both sides. Now we're going to go ahead and pre-drill on the lines right in the center of the board. Now the next step is you're going to go ahead and square this board up to the middle board where you put the screw in, and make sure that it's square because that's important. Now we're going to go ahead and move up a level. We're going to go ahead and square up the center board. And we're going to mark in 1.5 inches from each side. And then pre-drill where those lines are. Now I'll finally move up to the last level. Make sure it's square. Now where these two boards intersect, I'm going to go ahead and drill them all out. Now we put in 4 more screws. And with that, this project is done. On to the next one. So for this next project, you're going to need a 2x4, or in my case, just the leftovers of the 2x8 that I had. And I'm going to cut 2 pieces to 4 feet. Next, we're going to head over to the table saw. Now I'm going to go ahead and rip both of these into 2x2s. It's snowing dogs and cats out there. Oh, it's so cold. Now for this next step, I'm going to go ahead and start by setting my saw to 5 degrees on the bevel and 5 degrees on the miter. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut off all the ends of my 2x2s. Now with all the miters cut on one end, you're going to go ahead and just flip it around to the other side and then cut off the end of the other side. Now set the saw back to 0. Now for this part of the project, you're going to need the pieces from the last project. You're going to need these 3 12-inch long boards, and you're going to go ahead and make another one, so ending up with 4. And if you didn't make these, then you just have to cut a strip to 1/2 inch wide of a 2x4. Now with your saw still set at 5-degree bevel, you're going to set your miter to 45 degrees. And you're going to cut all 4 of these pieces to have a bevel and miter, and you're going to set them up against your fence like this. Alright, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to flip the board around like this, and then put it at this end of the saw and cut off this end. Now with all these cut, we can go ahead and set them aside. And now we're going to cut 4 pieces to 9 inches. So once again, I have this at 45 degrees and I'm cutting it with a 5-degree bevel. And then I'm going to measure from this tip here, and I'm going to measure down 9 inches. Now for the final cuts, I'm going to go ahead and set it back to 0 on the bevel and the miter. And I'm going to cut a fence picket into a 3-inch square. You could use a 1x4 or a 1x whatever you want. Time for assembly. So starting out, you're going to line up the 2 longest points on your 2x2s like I did here. It's kind of hard to see on video, but you'll be able to see it. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to measure up from the bottom. You're going to measure up 9 inches. Do that on the 2 that you lined up the tips. And as you can see, my boards are very, very warped, and I can't do nothing about it now. So we're just going to roll with it. I'm going to go ahead and spread these apart, and then put a dab of glue above each of the lines. And in my bride nailer, I have some 1 1/4 inch bride nails. Probably 1 inch would be just fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 12-inch long boards with the 45s and 5-degree angles, and I'm going to line these up with the marks and line it up with the outside edge here. And then go over to the other side and line everything up. Now the next step is you're going to take your 9-inch long boards, and you're just going to find about where they should go, so where they line up on both sides, and then make a mark at the bottom and put on a dab of glue. And you can go ahead and put in a couple more nails. Now with this one done, we're going to go ahead and set it aside. And for this one, for now, we're just going to put on the 12-inch board and not the 9-inch board. Now I'm going to go ahead and bunch these all up together. And I'm going to get my cap thing. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a dab of glue where this piece is, and then same thing on the other side. Alright, I got all of my 1/2-inch wide strips attached all the way around, and this is the final product. Alright, so apparently if you don't hit the record button, videos won't record. So yeah, I don't have the videos of me cutting these out because I didn't press the record button. But I'm going to go ahead and give an overview. First off, we have 2 pieces cut to 10 1/4, 2 to 11 1/2. We have 8 cut to 12 inches and 4 cut to 14 inches. Now we're going to go ahead and head over to the table saw. Alright, so starting out, the boards that you're going to need to rip are the 14-inch long boards, the 11 1/2, and 10 1/4 inch long board. But for now, we're just going to cut the 11 1/2 and 10 1/4 inch boards, and we're going to cut these into 2-inch strips. With that done, we're going to rip 2 of the 14-inch long boards and leave 2 of the 14-inch boards aside. Next, I'm going to set the saw to 2 1/2 inches and rip the remaining 2 14-inch long boards. So the next step is going to be set your saw to 5 inches and rip 4 of the 8 12-inch long boards. Next, you're going to cut the remaining 4 to just under 4 1/2 inches. Now with everything ripped, it's time for assembly. First off, I'm using 1 1/4 inch bride nails to put everything together. And starting out, I'm going to go ahead and organize everything. Alright, now that I got everything separated in piles, I have the 2 1/2 inch wide boards, the 2 inch, all these are 2 inches wide, and then I have just the regular 5 1/2 inch wide boards. I'm going to start out with the 2 1/2 inch and 2 inch wide 14-inch long boards. And how I'm going to put these together is like this. So it's kind of like an equal length on the inside. I'm going to put some glue on the 2 inch wide board, and then set the 2 1/2 inch wide board on top of it. And I just put 5 bride nails in all the way along. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing and make 4 of them. Now with all my corner pieces done, I'm going to start on the box or whatever it's called. I'm going to start out with 2 of these. So these are the 10 1/4 inch long boards. Set one here and one here. And then with the longer ones, these will go on each side. And they need to be put together just like that. So starting out, you're going to put your widest boards in the center here. And just put them together and make sure they line up. And I'm going to switch to a smaller bride nail. That way they won't poke out the back. Now next, I'm going to take this next box and put glue all the way around it. Now for the next step, you're going to make sure that the best looking top is facing down. So the worst looking side with like tags or the dog ear things is facing up. You're going to attach these corner pieces on each corner, just like this. You're just going to measure the inside of the bottom of your planter, and mine is 9 by 9 inches. So what you're going to do is just use some of these scraps and cutoffs that you have, and then put in the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that. Just lay these all the way across. Now for the final cuts, I'm going to cut a couple fence pickets to 13 3/4 inches long. Set the saw to 2 1/2 inches wide. Put both of these into 4 strips. Now set your saw to 45 degrees and cut off all the ends. Now just add glue all the way around. Lay these out. And now for the final bride nail of the entire video in 3, 2, 1. And with that, this project is finished. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and click right here if you want to see more of my videos.